looks like we are ready to go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. So, today we're going to be talking about leaders dealing with betrayal at work. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but today I'm going to share an experience of when I was a younger leader and newer and didn't know better. So I'm going to share some mistakes I've made along the way and what I did to correct them so that you guys can hopefully avoid the same mistakes that I made. So I want you to imagine being at work and you had somebody who was a little bit anxious, a little bit timid. You took a chance on them when you hired them because they had a really nice personality, they were a little bit insecure, and you took a lot of time and you took them under your wing, you gave them extra training, extra care, extra attention. They loved you at first. They loved you at first. And they got to the skill level where they were doing really, really well. And then, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you get side swiped, backstabbed, and you're crushed and furious. And this is one of the things that had happened to me as I had invested a lot of time in this person, and they ended up in the one of the worst ways betraying me and backstabbing me. And I got so upset about that. And I was like, I did not handle it well. I was not proud of it. Um, and what I ended up doing is I was still fairly good, but I reacted. I didn't react as my best self when the betrayal became public. And I was like, Going back though, here's three things that I've done going forward. So when you've experienced that kind of betrayal and you're like, you know what, you feel horrible. You're like, after all I did for you, and this is how you repay me. And and one of the things that had happened is it was put on like and it was the way that it was done was a completely inappropriate way, and it wasn't the right context, so it really stood out. And so it was like a company performance, and then my name got mentioned about something that they didn't like, and it was that I was coming in late to the office. And at that time, I had about an hour commute into the office, and it was it's not my strong suit, let's just say. And we'll go into a bunch of different reasons of why and where that came from, and the hindsight of when I did some of the inner work and how I processed some of the emotions around that sting of betrayal. So the first thing is taking principles above personalities. Assess the accuracy of the message and the data provided rather than the delivery of it. Sometimes we don't like the way people communicate the message, but I found that whenever I take this approach, and this is just one particular example, there's been lots of betrayals that I've gone through where whether it's from a vendor or a customer or something like that, where you feel like you've been treated unfairly, it's not an accurate assessment, and it can sting when it happens, and it's a natural response to want to lash back, and we need to, as leaders, be able to override that need to lash back. And so when I find that I implement this, principles above personalities, oftentimes I don't like the way that it's delivered, but if I take a look at the principle of it, is what they're saying accurate? I may not like how they're delivering the message, but is there something that they're saying that is correct in their assessment? And so in this particular case, she was right. I was being late. I just didn't like how she delivered the message. I felt it was really unfair, and I thought she should come to me. And I kept feeling like, why didn't she address this directly? And so at the time, I wasn't able to see the full picture of it. But now I can know that looking back, the second piece that you would do is you're going to address the underlying core issues. So in once you've assessed the accuracy, is it true or is it not true? Because sometimes people will say stuff that's completely not true. I've had those examples as well, and those ones are much easier to deal with because like it's like if somebody says you're a purple unicorn, it's like you can laugh at it because it's not true, right? So but when it is true, that's where you start going to secondary issues and you start having underlying issues that come up about that. So this is where you have to start digging down, and this is where inner work is important as a leader for you to start understanding where the thing's coming from. So let's take the situation where I felt that the delivery part wasn't fair, and I was 100% right, but you can be right or you can be happy, and it's usually not it's one or the other, not both. And so while I didn't like the delivery method, I have to look at a couple of things. And when I looked at that, it's like, okay, it's not fair that they did that. But now I have to ask, why did they choose that method to deliver the message? And I had to accept my part in it. And it was, I missed early warning signs. I didn't take them serious. Where I had looked back and I saw little ways that she would make little comments about me arriving late or stuff like that. And I'm like, at the time, because I was a young leader, I thought, like, who are you to tell me? I'm your boss. Like, you shouldn't talk to me like that. And don't worry about whether or not I'm on time if I'm staying all these hours late. That was the justification. So justification is a number one. Okay, but I missed the early warning signs. So I have to address and acknowledge that part where I was like, well, it's not fair that they did it in that way. It seemed over the top. Whereas when I stop and I look at it and I reflect and I start to address some of the underlying core issues, I see that I missed early warning signs where I wasn't taking them seriously. So I had to take ownership of that. So I took that. It's like, okay, number one, I was late. Number two, I missed the early warning signs when they were trying to tell me. Number three is I had double standards. And anytime you have double standards as a leader, your team will get frustrated with you. They will get irritated with you, and they will find it unfair, and then you might see some negative behavior come up about that. And it may not have anything to do with the thing that you assign them, but example, if you tell them to be patient and to, not lose their temper when they're talking to a customer, but you lose your temper all the time when you're talking to them, they're going to see that as an alignment of values, and they're not going to trust you. They're not going to value what it is that you have to say. And this is one of the burdens of leadership that people don't really talk about. They think, it's great to be king and have some of what I used to think were the perks. Now I can see if you're doing leadership right, the perks aren't worth the extra work that you have to do. You have to really love helping other people succeed to do well as a leader. But like I said, I was a young leader. I was still fairly new to this stuff, and so these are my mistakes that I've made that I'm sharing with you guys, full transparency. I haven't always done this right, but I want you guys to be aware of it so that you don't make those same mistakes. So I was aware of double standards. So I missed the cues, I had double standards, and that created a sense of unfairness. And it also limited the way that they could try to talk to me to address some of it. So receiving feedback from your team, negative feedback from your team, should actually be encouraged and welcomed. Not easy to do. It's really stingy when it first starts to happen. But if you take that first principle that I talked about, principles above personality, don't worry about how the message is delivered. Now, you can always coach your team on how to give you proper feedback so it doesn't set things off for you. But at the same time, you want to know these things so that you can actually correct them. Now I have to take this, now that I have 3 things that are actions that I have to work on. And this started out with, she betrayed me. It wasn't fair. Now I've got actual homework. How does that work, right? They betray me and I have extra work to do? Yes, this is how it works. Number 3 is a no retaliation policy. Okay? So if you want open communication within your team, you cannot retaliate when they tell you stuff or they tell you in a way that you don't like. Now, this doesn't mean be a doormat and accept unacceptable behavior. Like I said, give them a proper structure on how to give that feedback so that they can have the ability to call you out so you have the opportunity as a leader to grow. Not something that's always easy. In fact, most of the time, it's damn uncomfortable. It's one thing to get negative feedback from the people that are further ahead of you, and they are where you want to be. But it's a whole different ball game when you get feedback from somebody who's junior to you, but they're right. That stings like a motherfucker. You don't like that. It's not fun. But the strength that you can develop as a leader by being able to accept that kind of feedback will have you outmatched. And the value of the respect, when they see that you can actually change your behavior, you can fix your shortcomings, it's going to inspire them to do the same. That they will see that taking accountability, taking responsibility for the things that you've done wrong and making it right is going to be so valuable. It is worth it. The return of it is worth it. It's worth that sting. And it also takes the sting out of the initial betrayal. So I had to look at, number 1, why am I late? Well, some of it is easy fixes. Now, I also have had a pattern of being late from way back into childhood. And there's many layers of why that happens. And I still am working through some of that stuff of why that happens. But one of the things is I used to get severely punished for coming home from school late. I also grew up in a home where I did not want to go home. And that's why I would come home late. I did not want to be in that house. The longer I could stay out, the more I was at school. I was always signed up for extracurricular activities, something to do after school so that I didn't have to come home. And that is where the benefit of being late came in. And I remember reading in a book, I believe it was Marianne Williamson in her Return to Love book, that she talked about if you're being late, it means you don't want to be there. And so I was like, okay, so I have to take that on. It's like, well, why am I being late? What's going on? Is it just because another reason why I tend to be late is I say yes to too many things and I don't have firm boundaries, so I have to work on that. So I started to look at the reasons behind why I was being late, and it was focused on correcting those things. The second thing was I had to address my arrogance at dismissing the subtle ways that they were trying to bring this up as a problem. And why? Because to me, it wasn't as valuable. I still have a hard time seeing it as valuable. because on the back end. So I still have a challenge with this one, but I know the importance of being on time, obviously, for when I see it as important. But the problem is I don't always see it as important as an everyday thing. And I give them the same flexibility that if there's challenges, it's just when it becomes a repeated problem, that's when you have to stop, take a look, reflect, and address it, right? And as leaders, you're going to be measured and viewed so much harsher than the rest of your team. You can make one mistake, they can make 100. You can make one, and now it's terrible. You're a terrible boss, you're horrible, and it's so much harder to correct that. It's it's a bit of a double standard. As the leader, you have to be patient with them. They do not have to be patient with you. No different than kids. Kids don't have to be patient with you. They're kids. They don't have the emotional capacity to be able to think at that level, right? So you as a leader, you have much more knowledge. You have much more experience. You have much more training in this realm. And if you don't, get some training for sure. I might be able to help you with that if you're looking for some help. Okay. So number 2 was I had to address my own arrogance. Hey, Jonathan, nice to see you. Thank you for following me. I appreciate you. Welcome. So I had to address my own arrogance and my tendency to dismiss the little ways that they were trying to raise these things to my attention. Number 3 is I had to address my resistance to their feedback, that of where I felt it wasn't fair, it wasn't accurate, any of those kind of things. It doesn't matter. And this is where I had to, because if a customer had given me that exact same feedback in that exact same method, I would have sucked it up. But because they were an employee and they reported to me, I didn't feel that they should speak to me in that way or treat me in that way. And I retaliated. I was cold, I was distant, I was short, I was snappy. Like I wasn't deliberately sabotaging her or trying to, crush her or anything else like that. But I wasn't being my best leader self. I went from being somebody who was extremely supportive, extremely kind, extremely caring, showing her the ropes, ensuring that she had the tools that she needed to succeed, which are all the things any great leader should do. You give your team the tools they need to succeed. But when I felt betrayed, I turned the tables and I didn't behave appropriately. So I had to take a look at my own resistance, my own defensiveness, and why was I behaving in a way, even if her betrayal was completely unjustified and I couldn't find anything that I did to deserve it, it still shouldn't cause me to come out of character for the things that I truly value. And so I had to take a look at what was going on there, and it was because I didn't want to accept the responsibility for my own bad behavior. And that's so hard, but we expect our teams to do that. So if we can't do that as leaders, why would our teams do that? If we're going to deflect, we're going to deny, we're going to hide, we're going to avoid, we're going to dismiss it, write it off, treat it as not important, how do you think the team's going to start to act after a while when you try to confront them on their shit and they haven't done it? They're going to do the same thing. You set the tone. And that really sucks. It's a great thing if you're on point. It's not so great if you're letting things slide. And we're all human beings, so there isn't a leader out there that hasn't let things slide in some way or another, hasn't been their best self, and knows that if they got caught on camera or if they weren't, if other people saw how they were behaving or thinking, you wouldn't be proud of that example of you. Now, it's just a blip in time. Don't beat yourself up that it's impossible to fix, but understand where those things are coming from and address those things And when I say no retaliation, make sure that these things that you're uncovering about yourself, you can't address the stuff with the team or the betrayal or treat them any different or badly until you can actually fix these things. So focus on the things that you pull out of this. And defensiveness, it usually comes from past experiences. Past experiences where you've been highly and unfairly criticized, that you weren't shown patience, you weren't shown tolerance, you weren't shown belief that you could actually do something, that you were just beaten down. And so when you find that you're getting defensive about something, know that only 20% of it is coming from what's going on in this particular instance today. I can promise you, if you're having a high, strong emotional reaction and being really defensive, that there's 80% is coming from the past. Maybe somebody spoke to you in that tone. Maybe it reminded you of when your mother used to scold you, or a teacher used to scold you, or your dad, or your aunt, or your grandmother, or somebody in your past, or maybe a previous boss. And it just brought up feelings of inadequacy, of not good enough, that you feel like you need to defend. And it's not saying that you haven't been through really bad times or toxic, challenging situations. Thank you, Maya. Welcome. Thank you for the gifts. So if you find yourself in that defensive state, accepting and tracing back, where did you last remember feeling that kind of defensiveness, that kind of criticism coming at you? Deal with that and know that this situation is coming up for you in this present moment today, so that you can heal that past situation by giving yourself the things that you should have had. So patience, tolerance, reinforcement, positive instruction on what to do right. That you weren't just a failure, you weren't just a fuck up, you weren't just, terrible at your job, you weren't just never going to amount to anything, or whatever it is that the negative narrative that is going on in your head that is driving you to be defensive. Because defensive means we're not taking on any of this communication that somebody is bringing to us. It's like we feel it's unfair and it's unjust. And even if it is, if you're having a strong reaction, it's not just that moment. It's probably other times that you've been treated in the same manner, unfairly, unjustly, criticized, put down, and you felt like you had to defend yourself, over-explain, any of those kind of things. And so taking a look at that is going to do you so much more. Because even if that person deliberately and maliciously, maybe they're a narcissist, maybe they're a psychopath, I don't like those labels, I don't believe in them, but even if they are, and they were deliberately out to get you, you can take that away from them by taking that power back, by looking at the things that you have the ability to correct within yourself, correct those things, and I can promise you your team is going to have a whole lot more respect for you, because even if somebody else betrays you, if you retaliate, everybody's going to look at how you're behaving. They're not going to look at what caused you to react that way. So never let somebody else's bad behavior cause you to behave badly. Okay? So, quick recap before we close out. Assess the accuracy, not the delivery of the message. Take a principles above personalities. We may not like the way the message was delivered, but learn the lesson from it. Address the underlying issues. So in my case, I had missed some of the early cues where they tried to call this out for me. I didn't take it seriously. I had double standards. I was arrogant. I didn't feel it was fair. All of those things. Taking full ownership of those And I know I'm probably in the future somebody is going to come along and they're going to quote this video. Tina, remember when you said this? And I'll be like, yeah, it's really good advice. I should take it. And I do take this when I'm in a good spot, but I'm human and I will more than likely mess up again. And I will feel irritated and I'll feel defensive and I'll go through all of this stuff. And this still applies. In order for me to take that sting out of the betrayal, this is what I need to do. These are the steps that I take personally. Okay? So the third thing is no retaliation. No retaliation, because if you do this to the fullest of your abilities and you identify the things that you need to work on as a leader, you won't have time. You'll be too busy fixing yourself. And by the time you fix yourself and correct the shortcomings that you have, you'll be like, oh, that person? Okay, no big deal. And you will be so much better, so much stronger, you'll have much more self-respect for yourself, and the team will have respect for you as well. So that is the training for today. I hope you got insight from this. I hope you found it useful and valuable. If you need help getting through some of this stuff, if you're on TikTok, you can go to my profile. You can click on, there's a calendar link. You can book in a 30-minute free call with me. And I am looking, I have a target. My goal is to do 1,000 free calls. Okay? So 1,000 free calls. I will help you pick a subject that you want to talk about, and you'll have 30 minutes of my time for free. Book that call in with me. If we feel that we want to work together further, we can do that. If not, I will help you to the best of my ability during that call. Okay? So, click on the calendar link that is in my profile on TikTok. So if you just click on my image, it'll take you to my profile. You can click on the link and book in a call. If you're on Facebook, I will put it in the comments so that you have that link. So book in a free call with me, and I can save you the pain and the sting of betrayal, that we can go through this together. And maybe you're struggling with the piece that I was talking about of uncovering uncovering the underlying issues. Sometimes it's not easy to see it clearly when we're feeling very emotional about it. And so having an outside observer who isn't as emotionally attached to the situation can help bring you the clarity that you need, so that you can work on those things that they will never say those kind of things about you again. Okay? So, and of course, there's all kinds of nuances with betrayal. This is one particular situation. There's been times where it hasn't been justified, and there's a completely different way of doing that. But this can be used in any situation. Okay? So guys, that is the training for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you on my calendar soon. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.